is Monday, May the 2nd at 9:18 in the morning. You guys, before we get into this, I want to say I am fully aware this is not the most professional setting in the world. We're literally just sitting in my bedroom. The lighting's not the best. My makeup and my hair is like not on point. By no means. But you know what? The baby is asleep. I have some things to say, and I added a cute little light for distraction. So maybe that will help. I've came to the realization, as much as I want to be professional and really give you guys good quality content, at the same time, chaotic, messy mom is kind of my brand at this point. I'm late for everything. I'm late for all my live streams. I'm late getting my videos out. It really is just what it is at this point, and I have to accept that. And for those of you who have also accepted it and can still hear me out and listen to my ramblings and take something from it, just know that your support means the world, okay? I have no idea what I'm going to title this video, but I'm sure it has something to do with addiction and relapse, because that is what we're going to be talking about today. As most of you know, I am a recovering addict. I've been in recovery for the last 6 going on 7 years now. And this is something that I've always been open about, but at the same time, I've not shared a lot of details about my addiction for so many multiple different reasons. I always battle with myself because, number one, my story is very complex. It's not just a surface level story by no means. I never know how much is too much to share. Do I put it all out there? Where do you start? Because honestly, addiction doesn't just happen overnight. That's the truth. So I always just kind of struggle with where to start when it comes to my story. My hopes is that this conversation today will spark some questions that you guys may have. So leave those in the comments if you have any questions whatsoever. But before we get into it, please consider hitting the like button on this video, subscribing if you haven't already, and tapping the bell for post notifications, because I'm going to be putting out videos back to back to back. Okay. So now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and hop into today's conversation. Yeah. So, like I said before, I've been okay. So, like I said before, I am a recovering addict. I have been clean for going on 7 years, and it's been a ride. I've learned a lot about myself and a lot of different techniques to deal with things, because that was the main reason why I fell into addiction to begin with. Not being able to deal with things and trying to mask that and kind of numb that, different emotions, feelings, real life shit that was going on that I just wanted to forget or not deal with. And I fell into addiction, which happens. It happens. Okay. From day one of starting my channel, I always wanted to open up about my story and my journey and share what I've learned along the way with you guys, because I really do think that the things that's made me the person I am today and the shit that I've learned along the way could help so many other people out there. But like I said before, I always struggle with how much is okay to share and how much is too much to share, and just all of these different things, because my story is so complex. But the reason I want to talk about this today is because recently I kind of relapsed, I think, and I want to have a conversation about it, because this is the first time in 6 going on 7 years, like I said before, where I would say I even remotely relapsed in any way. And what you go through mentally whenever you relapse in any form, it really is worth talking about. I'm sorry, but I got a lot of cigarette for this one, y'all. Okay. So the past year of my life has been challenge after challenge after challenge. And I think for the majority, I've dealt with it very well. And I know there's people out there that can say every day is a challenge. Life in general is a challenge. Yes, it is. But this last year of my life has really put me through the test. You know what I'm saying? It seems like it's just been one thing after another, after another, after another. And before I can really recoup from the last thing, another thing's hitting me. And I don't know, I guess I kind of hit a breaking point without even realizing that I hit a breaking point. As some of you may know, we lost our brother, my brother-in-law, my husband's brother, in a horrific car accident. This time, literally, this past week, it's been a year. So last April, um, he was in a horrific car accident where, upon impact, he was thrown several feet out of the car. And this happened very late at night, like after midnight. So we're just very thankful that someone did drive by shortly after it happened and seen the vehicle in the field and went to investigate, because if not, then they may not have found him for much longer. Um, and I know that may seem very dark, but I think in a situation like that where you lose a loved one, you have to really dig for the positive or dig for the blessing in things. And so um, we are grateful that he was found sooner rather than later. But unfortunately, it ended horribly, and it affected our whole family in a very negative way. We had already lost so many loved ones. I've talked about this briefly as well. I'm not going to go into a great detail about it, but we've lost a lot of people in the past several years. My husband has lost so many people: his mother, his sister, his baby nephew, his grandma, his cousin, my dad. We've just had a lot of losses within our relationship, literally from the beginning. Me and my husband were together less than 6 months when my father passed away in our home from stage 4 colon cancer. And so from the very beginning of our relationship there, we both went through a lot of trauma and a lot of grief. And majority of our relationship has been circulated around trauma and grief and just helping one another get through that. And I think that because of that, as hard as it's been and as much as a challenge as it's been, at the same time, um, we if I didn't have him, you guys, I don't know if I would be here today, because he really has been my life partner and been by my side through it all. And I've also been there for him as well. And we've pulled each other through some really dark places. Um, there was a time, though, in the beginning, we were still young. And after my father passed away, of course, it affected me greatly. And I tried really hard not to deal with it for a long time because my mother was really dealing with it and going through it. And I wanted to be strong for her because my dad just, that was one of the things he made me promise, is that I would be strong for her and be there for her, not leave her side, take care of her. And so she, of course, just lost the love of her life of over 15 years. My grief doesn't matter. You know what I'm going through? It doesn't matter. She matters. What she's going through, it matters. And that's what I told myself for a long time. She needs me. She needs me to be strong. She needs us to be strong. And I tried so hard. And um, one thing that really helped me to be able to put on this mask and stay strong and do what needed to be done was drugs. At first, when I first started using, it was more of just I don't even know. It was just a weak moment of, sure, fuck it. You know what I mean? And it gave me a lot of energy. And at that time, I needed a lot of energy because I needed to be able to hustle and I needed to be able to take care of things and I needed to be able to take care of my mom and take care of just everything, finances, everything. So Me and my husband both started taking on a regular basis, started using on a regular basis. And I think, I don't know about him, okay, because that's going to be one of those conversations that he'll have to be here and us have like together. But for me, for the longest time, I was in denial about the fact of it being an issue or a problem. I didn't feel like I had to have it or I couldn't survive. It was like, I need this in order to be able to do all the things I need to do, but I didn't feel addicted. You know what I mean? In the beginning of my drug use, it was very innocent. I didn't use every day. I didn't anything like that. I would just use when I needed that extra pick me up, that extra energy to go and do the things that needed to be done. And that is how it started. I will say though, just a little bit of tidbit of information here. I do have an addictive personality and I always have. I don't know if those types of things are hereditary or not. If you know, let me know in the comments down below. But I will say that both of my parents, both my father and my mother, also have addictive personalities. They're different. They're like day and night to one another, but they both struggle with those same addictive personalities. My father is an alcoholic and has been since he was 17 years old. He's also had a lot of drug use as well. And due to these things, he now has cirrhosis of the liver that he's going to live with for the rest of his life. He's made a lot of bad decisions within his life, and from a young age on up, and still today, he actually just got out of jail yesterday for like the umpteenth millionth time. And I will say as well, addiction took over his life to a point to where he wasn't in my life or his other kids' lives like he should have been. And you know, as his children, we really watched addiction take over him completely. He turned into a completely different person. And, you know, now he's in his 50s and has nothing to show for it because he has lived his life on the run, running from things his whole life, like consequences, not wanting to deal with consequences, not wanting to deal with the things that he's done. And that is like the big thing about addiction. As a recovering addict myself, my experience and from what I see from a lot of my loved ones, a lot of us fall into addiction because we're running from something or we don't want to deal with something. I know that was my experience for sure. I didn't want to deal with shit. And, you know, drugs numbed it. Drugs numbed the pain, drugs numbed the anger. It just numbed it all. It made life more bearable to be able to get up every day, you know? And when it comes to my mom, and on her side, she was what some people call a functioning addict. She was able to kind of keep her shit straight, keep her head on her shoulders, still work, provide for her family, and not allow it to get in the way for a very, very long time. In fact, growing up, I had no clue my mama struggled with addiction, not even in the slightest. Okay. And so when I got older and she told me, I wasn't shocked, but I was like, wow, you know, it just kind of surprised me. Um, because I had no clue. I'm like the perfect mixture of both my father and my mother. I'm somewhere in the middle. For a very long time, I was able to keep my head on straight and be a functioning addict. And unless you knew, you didn't know, right? I took care of myself. I still did things that needed to be done. In fact, I used drugs so I could get shit done. You know what I'm saying? And nobody knew. Unless you knew, you didn't know, you know? And I took care of myself and made sure that I didn't put it before things that really mattered in life. I just used it as a crutch. But you know what they say, a house of cards will always tumble, always, always tumble. And, you know, the thing about addiction, no matter how you try to validate it, the truth of the matter is within addiction, you spin a web of lies to try to cover up your addiction. And sooner or later, that web of lies will start to get tangled up and you'll start to get tangled up and forget what you've lied about and stumble, you know, and that is exactly what happened with me. Um, my persona and all the the mask that I wore started to fall. And my mama and other loved ones in my life started to question, like, things that I was doing and things that I had told them that weren't adding up. And they were like, okay, but you said this, and this is what's really happening. So what's up? Why are you lying about this? What's really going on? And I'll tell you guys off the jump, I'm a horrible, horrible, horrible liar. So I cracked quickly. I told everything, you know, especially when it comes to my loved ones. I'm not a good liar. I'm just not. And I cracked. I told everything. I broke down emotionally. I had all of this stuff within me that was just screaming to come out anyway. So it didn't take much pushing from my mom and my cousin and other loved ones that were really concerned for me and my husband for me to crack. And I made the decision on my own to go to detox. And the reason that I'm talking about all this is because this kind of leads up to relapsing, which is a big part of addiction. And for anyone out there that's in active addiction right now, or maybe you've been in recovery and you just relapsed, please know, do not be ashamed of that. Every single addict out there relapse at one point or another, multiple times, several times. It's a part of the recovery process. And do not let anyone make you feel ashamed for it, because really and truly, we cannot change what's already happened. We can only get up the next day and try to do better. And that's why I want to share this, because like I said, I recently semi-relapse, which we're going to get into. But I want to share that because I think it's important to realize and to let other people out there that may be going through this, and the shame, because the shame is so much when you relapse or when you're an addict. The shame can be very overbearing for a lot of us. And I think it's important for you to know, I think it's important for people to know that they're not alone, and that it is completely normal to relapse. And it doesn't matter if you have 5 years under your belt, 6 years, 10 years, 13 years, you're never not susceptible to that. Like, you're always at risk of relapsing. And it's like the moment that you think you're not is usually when something like that happens, because the moment you get cocky and think that you got it all figured out and you got your life together and whatever, it's like boom, and it can happen so quickly. And I think that that's the biggest reason why, no matter how long you're in recovery, the truth of the matter is you'll always be an addict, because that addictive personality will always be there. The thing that even made you capable of becoming addicted and being an addict will always be there. And there's no getting away from that or curing it. There's no cure to it, no matter how many years of recovery you have under your belt. And the shame that we feel in those weak moments when we do relapse can be so overwhelming and overbearing. So yeah, I hope that in sharing this little piece of my struggle with you guys, I hope it helps somebody to know that, number one, you're not alone, which is the main thing, but also don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed, because that relapse, your addiction, those things do not define you. They only make you stronger. And it doesn't mean you're a failure. It doesn't mean you're a failure. It also does not mean that you are not capable, because you are. And I am. After I cracked and I told my family everything, and I broke down and became very emotional and overwhelmed with emotion, should I say, I chose to sign myself into a detox facility. The plan was to go to a rehab facility after the fact. At this time, I only had my son, who was very small. I'd been on this specific substance for a couple of years and had been covering it up all this time with no one knowing or no one even second guessing it. Um, and I really thought I was doing a good job covering it up until I wasn't, right? Until I wasn't. And that's how That's how it is as addicts. It's like you got it under control until you don't, you know? So, me and my husband both wanted to go to a detox facility and get, cleaned out, dry up a little bit, and then go to rehab and do the right thing. And I was so, so blessed in having a mother who could take care of my child if we were going to be able to do that. I wanted to do it with him because we had gotten each other through so much, and I just felt like having him there with me would help me a great deal. But unfortunately, the way that facilities work around here is if you are married, they will not put you together. They will not take you at the same time. So whenever we were calling to get into a facility and doing all the things, getting medically cleared, all the things, um, they called us with a bed and said, "We only have one bed and we can only take one of you because we don't allow married couples to come in at the same time." Um, they explained it, basically said that it doesn't help, it actually hurts. When you're trying to get in recovery to be doing that together. This should be an individual thing. And, looking back on it now, I agree. I think that as an individual, you have to want that. You can't do it because your spouse wants to do it. You have to want it. That was one of the biggest issues is for the first little bit that I was trying to recover. I wasn't doing it for me. I was really and truly doing it because I wanted to be a better mother. I wanted to be a better wife. I wanted to be a better daughter. I was doing it for all of the ones around me and wanting to do better for them. But when it came to me, I still selfishly wanted to be using. It helped me get through life. It helped me to mask the pain and the grief and the hurt that I felt inside that I just could not deal with at the time. And so, even though I knew I wanted better, that wanting to be numb and not wanting to deal with those things overpowered me wanting to do better. So for the first little bit, I was trying to be in recovery and do better for all of my loved ones, not for myself per se. And that was the biggest problem. Like looking back on it, I didn't really get clean and not relapse anymore until I wanted it for myself. So the first time that I relapsed was right out of detox, you guys. And I'm not laughing because it's funny. It's just so crazy because I was in there for 3 days. Like I said, I involuntarily or voluntarily committed myself. But after 3 days of being in there, I missed my baby so badly. I'd never been away from him any extended time like that. And I also missed my husband. I missed my family in general. And I felt so powerless because all the things that I was even using for so I could cope and be strong and live my life and hustle and still provide and all these things, they weren't there. So I felt so powerless and so hopeless because everything that helped push me through life was gone essentially. And that's how it felt. And here I am, I'm sick. I'm trying to dry out. I don't have my loved ones that help push me. Um, and I was just in a very weak state of mind. And mentally, I was not okay at all. So after the third day, started to kind of like get in frantic mode and be like, okay, this place ain't for me. There were so many different people in there that were dealing with so many different problems. And, looking around, I was like, I can do this. I don't need to be here. This place isn't for me. I'm good. I don't need to be here. I can do this at home. I'm really not that bad. Looking around at people that had been in there 3, 4, 5 different times, they knew how to play the system, like all this stuff. It made me realize like, dang, I'm really not that bad. I can do this at home. I can do this. I'm strong enough. That's what I was telling myself. Um, so I went to sign myself out. And whenever I went to sign the paper, because I put myself in there voluntarily, when I went to sign the paper, they notified me that if they seen fit that they could hold me against my will, basically, for up to 72 hours. And I was like, well, wait, hold up a minute. You're telling me that I can sign myself in, but I can't sign myself out, and y'all just let me walk out that door. And they said, no, if we think that you're a threat to yourself, or that if we believe that you are going to leave and like use again, all of these things, then we can hold you for up to 72 hours. And your girl went into straight frantic mode, because let me tell you, then you feel like you're in prison. You're in jail. You can't get out this place, you know. And I was like, but I'm good. I'm good. I got this. This ain't the place for me. I was so emotional because, um, I seen I've seen so many people in there, because the way that they do it, I'm trying not to take up too much time on this particular part, but for those of you who've never been in detox, the way that they do it, a lot of times, the way they did it in the facility I was in, was they try to pair you with people that you can kind of relate to and resonate with. So they put me in a room with another girl that was the same age as me. She had a small baby, and she was also um, coming off of a very similar drug. And the difference was, hers was a pure form and mine was a synthetic form. So she was going through hardcore withdrawals, and I was going through withdrawals, but nothing to the level she was. And you guys, she was in so much pain, screaming out in pain. So many, like, just, it was agony, straight agony, day and night. Um, I wanted to help her so badly, but there was nothing I could do to help. And I didn't sleep well because she was screaming, and really, it if it was like an exorcism, and I'm not joking. So that was a lot, and that was overwhelming. And then them telling me that I can't leave this place until I get cleared by a therapist or whatever. So I go to speak to the therapist, and I was so extremely genuine and honest and very emotional, and was like, look, I don't need to be here. I need to be with my child. I need to be with my family. They give me strength. You know, I'm not cut out for this. They took that as I needed to be there. They took that as, oh, you for sure need to be here, because if you're that weak already and you're that emotional and you're that wore down or whatever, then you're in a weak state. And if we let you out of here, you could potentially hurt yourself or go use or whatever. So, like I said, looking back at it now, I get why they kept me. But then I went into straight like panic mode, frantic mode, trying to get the hell out of there, and felt like I was in jail. So I started asking around to the people who had been there several different times and being like, hey, how the fuck do I get out this place? I mean, I was straight panicking. Um, and I remember my husband would call me, and we could only talk for like 15 minutes on the phone so many times a day. And I would tell him, like, I'm going to get out of here. I'm coming. I'm coming. I'm going to find a way to get out of here, crying to him about how this ain't the place for me. I'm not built for this shit. Like, all this and that. Mind you, I've never been to jail or ever been in trouble. Praise God. He was always looking out for me, which, like I said, I was a high functioning addict for a long time. So I was very cautious. I didn't just go use anywhere or do just anything. I was very careful for a long time. But God definitely was looking out for me, because I can count a few different occasions where I wasn't so careful and I was very selfish, and things could have went very badly, and they didn't. So yeah, God is good. God's good. The people within the facility that have been there several times, they started telling me like, okay, you want to get out of here, this is what you got to do. When they ask you at vital time, hey, how you feeling? Don't be honest with them. Tell them you're good. Everything. Oh, I'm good. Yeah, I feel great. My withdrawals are good. Look, oh, I'm not shaking. Look at my pupil. Like, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Don't sit there and complain. Don't tell them how you're hurting. Don't tell them how you're sick. Don't tell them how you feeling, stressed out and upset and blah, blah, blah. Don't do any of that. So So that's what I did, and I went in there, and they would ask, because they do it in the morning and in the afternoons. They take vitals. You got to take your medicines, all this stuff. And I was like, "Oh, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. Oh no, yeah, I'm good." And I did that for like a full 24 hours. And so after that, they finally let me go. But I will say, before they let me go, I had to talk to that therapist, counselor person again before I left. And I think she caught on. She knew what I was doing, because she was like, I just talked to you less than 72 hours ago and you were not okay. So what changed? And you guys, I can't even remember what I said, but I made up some bullshit story. I'm not gonna lie. I was just trying to get out of there. At that point, me like the thought of me being in recovery was the last thing in my mind. It was, I got to get home to my family. I don't belong here. This isn't the place for me. I need to get out of here. And I was in straight panic. I didn't care about my recovery. I didn't care about any of that. I just wanted to get the fuck out. She told me that they would be calling me with a bed for a rehab facility up the mountain, and just to stay close to the phone. And of course, I was like, "Yeah, I'm ready to go. You guys let me know. I'll take the bed. We'll go." You guys, I have to be honest, I had no plans on going to that rehab facility. That place traumatized me, and I was like, "Nope, I won't be back." You best believe my ass ain't coming back to no rehab. You best believe my ass ain't. Nope, I'll just do it on my own, whatever. And I got out of there. The fucked up part about addiction, I can't believe I'm getting emotional about this. The messed up part about addiction is, the whole time I was in this panic, frantic mode trying to get out, because I missed my family, I missed my loved ones. I just wanted to be with my loved ones. The second, you guys, the second they let me out them doors and I get in the taxi and they're taking me home, all I could think about was using. All I could think about was getting home, hugging my baby, hugging my loved ones, and using. And it was just the all that mattered. And that's the thing about addiction is it becomes the only thing that matters. Whatever your drug of choice is, whatever you're addicted to, it becomes the only thing that matters. And you can tell yourself so many different things to validate why you're using, why you need it. But the truth of the matter is it really does take over everything, and it makes you lie. It makes you lie to your loved ones. It makes you lie to yourself, live in this place of denial, and it's just not a fun place to be. So, of course, when I got home, man, I wasn't home. Like, this is me being fully transparent. I wasn't home an hour, maybe 2 hours. I spent some time with the baby and loving on everybody and just spending time together, and all that. And then I remember my husband, this whole time while I was going through this and I was in a facility, he was at the house taking care of the baby, because they wouldn't take him. They wouldn't take us together, but he was doing the damn thing. He did not use, and I know he didn't use for a fact. He was taking care of the baby and doing so good on his own, which I will say, my husband has always been a very strong-willed person and so capable of doing things. And he has the addictive personality, but he's just so strong-willed. When he sets his mind to something and he really wants it, he makes it happen. And me and his I think because of his childhood, he was raised around drugs and raised around addicts and raised around that lifestyle. I wasn't. And I do think that plays a part, because he was ready. He wanted better. You know, and that's a whole nother story for another day. Like I said, if you guys have questions, if you want to know more, ask them in the comments. It will spark a conversation. I would love to really go into detail, because like I said, our story is very, very, very complex, both of us. um, but I think that because of that, it did make a huge difference. We both had those addictive personalities, but he was really wanting better and really wanting to do better. And A part of me did, but it wasn't for me. It was for everyone else. I was still in that place of really thinking I needed this substance. I needed the drugs to live my life so that I could even function. That's where I was. As much as I may have been in denial about it, that was the truth. And so he was doing the damn thing, and I was so proud of him. But in that time when we were in active addiction, we were so toxic for one another because that's how it would go. One of us would be like, we're done, no more, we're done. Sorry, we had to take a little break. The baby woke up. It is what it is. Hashtag mom life. But anyways, where was I? Okay. Okay. While me and my husband was in active addiction, we were toxic for one another because what would happen is one of us would really want to do better, and we'd be like, okay, we're really done, and the both of us would agree, you're right, like we're done, no more. But then the next day or later that evening or whatever, we would talk each other into using again. And that's toxic. That's really hard to get clean when you're surrounded by that. They say you have to change your people, places, and things. Well, when it's your husband or your wife, it's not that easy, or even a mother or whatever. It can be really hard. So, um, at this time, my mom, she did not use at all. At this time, she had been in recovery for several years. And my husband always wanted to make me happy. And he's always done whatever he needed to make me happy. And, that wasn't always a healthy thing, especially when we were in active addiction. And it didn't take much persuading. And that was the first time I relapsed. Now, after that, and trust me, for all the comments that may come, for those of you who have never been in active addiction, for those of you who want to be judgmental, I know how selfish that is. Today, looking back, I'm fully aware of how selfish that sounds. Even then, a part of me was aware that I was being extremely selfish. But when you're in addiction, that's part of it. Being an addict, a big part of being an addict is only thinking about your wants and what you want. It becomes you trick your mind into thinking that want is a need. You trick yourself in thinking you need it. You need this to live. You need this to move forward in life. You need this to keep going. And that's what you trick yourself into believing. So you're extremely selfish. We as addicts validate that a lot of times in saying, like, we need this, when in reality, it's just a want. So there's just a little peek into my addiction. That's not even covering the surface or scratching the surface, should I say. But I bring that up because that was the first time I relapsed. That was the first time that I was like, okay, I really want to get better, and then relapsed. And although it was just a couple of days of sobriety or recovery, it was still recovery. It was still me. It was the first steps of me going into recovery. And after that first time relapsing, I relapsed several times after that. Several times. They have this saying where it's like, we all have a rock bottom, but sometimes rock bottom has a basement, right? You think you've hit your breaking point, you think you've hit your rock bottom, you don't think it can get any lower, and then it does. And for me, my rock bottom definitely had a basement, and I had to hit that basement level before I really was ready to get clean. And like I said, if you guys want to hear more about my story and all of those things, let me know in the comments. But my whole reason in bringing all this up was I relapsed several times before it stuck, before it actually stuck. And I now have 6 years under my belt, going on 7 once again. And throughout this time, I've learned so much about myself. I've done a lot of self-reflecting. I I've changed. I've grown into such a completely different person. And it has been such a crazy, crazy experience. But it's just been so many different things, obstacles in our way this past year that's made it difficult, really, really difficult. And this is the first year within my recovery that I've struggled with the idea of even relapsing. And when that thought first entered my mind, I should have went and talked to someone about it. I have a life coach that I talk to, a counselor, if you will, and I should have been honest about that. But I thought that because I had all these years under my belt, because I was strong in my sobriety, and because I really did not have the cravings and all the things anymore, I could be around it. Not that I am or was, but I could be and be perfectly fine. I had been in situations like that and was fine. So I didn't say anything when the thought hit my head about using. It was very sudden and quick, and it was on a very rough day. My health had been really bad, and I just remember having the thought in my head of like, man, I wish I could use. I know if I could just use, I would feel so much better right now, and none of this would fucking matter, and I would be happy. And I remember having that thought in my head, and it didn't stay there. It was very quick, very poof. And I remember thinking, girl, what? Do I need to remind you of the bullshit your life was because of addiction? Like, do I need to remind you what we went through, bitch? You know? And and I was okay again. A couple of months went by, and it happened again, and the thought crossed my mind again, and I was like, girl, what, you know, each time it didn't stay and I didn't act on it, never acted on it. But it happened a couple of times within the last year. And I just kind of brushed it off. Well, it's just a part of it, right? It's just a part of being an addict. And no matter how far you go, those things are going to happen. But I ignored the red flags of danger, of being at risk of relapsing. I ignored it. And I know that this is going to sound so small and minuscule, or however you say the word, to some people. But for me, this is very important. So a few weeks back, after these couple of different red flags happened, I ignored them. I said, girl, you ain't going there. You ain't doing that. Get that shit out your head. And I was cool. Well, a couple of weeks back, I went out with the girls and we had a couple of drinks. Well, no, I guess it's been about a month ago now. Yeah, it's been about a month ago now. I got a pina colada. It didn't have a lot of alcohol in it, but it just helped relax me, and it tasted really good, and we had a great night, and it was the first girls night out I had in a while, and I didn't realize how much I needed it. I needed that girls night out. I needed to hang out with my girls. I needed to vent. I needed to cry. I needed to dance. I needed to sing. You know what I'm saying? I needed that so badly. And it was very nice. It was very nice. But unfortunately, after that night and having such a good time and being able to just escape from everything going on in my life, I went and picked up a bottle of wine. And I told the husband, I'm going to get this bottle of wine. When I'm cooking dinner in the evenings, I may have a glass of wine, no big deal, because it really helped me that night having that one drink. And I had one shot of tequila too. So I had a pina colada and a tequila shot, and that was it. But it helped me to just feel a little bit better and escape a little bit from all the bullshit that's been going on. So, the very next day, you guys, I went to the grocery store and picked up a bottle of wine. And my thought process was, on tough days when things are really rough, I can have a glass of wine while I'm cooking dinner. It'll all be good. No big deal. It's all good. Didn't realize just how not in a good place I was due to all the shit that's been going on in my life. So the first day I had a glass of wine, it kind of just the one glass, regular wine glass, just a little bit, honestly, it helped. It helped just to like relax me. It didn't make me tipsy, didn't make me buzz, nothing like that. It just helped to loosen things up a little bit. Okay. And then I caught myself doing it the next day, getting another glass of wine. And this time I poured it a little bit more, right? And I drank it and I got a little bit of a buzz. Um, and then the next day I poured a whole glass at dinner time while I'm cooking, and I drank it fast, like it was a shot, you know? And in the wine bottles, honestly, there's not a lot in them. So I finished the first wine bottle within a week. And I made a mental note of it, and I thought, is that too far? Is that too much in a week? Is one bottle of wine too much to be consuming in a week? And I made a mental note of it. And I remember saying something to my husband about it and being like, do you think that's too much? Because honestly, really and truly, even though I was very generous with that last glass of wine, I only had maybe 3 or 4 wine glasses or 3 or 4 cups of wine, and the bottle was gone. My husband was like, "Yeah, they don't really carry that much. It's just a small bottle. We didn't get like a big, huge bottle." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that is no big deal. It's just one glass of wine. People do that all the time. It's supposed to help you. Red wine, people drink, all these different types of wines. A glass of wine keeps a doctor away, things like that." Um, you hear those things. And so I was like, "Oh, I'm good. I'm fine. It's just one glass of wine." So I get another bottle. And I remember when I picked out this bottle, I looked at the percentage of alcohol in it because the last bottle I had like 14% per volume or whatever. And I wanted something a little bit more potent. And that was red flag number 4. Um, because I shouldn't have been drinking it to get drunk, right? I should have been drinking it to get whatever. But so I went and I looked and I got some that was like 18%. And I was like, oh yeah, or I think no, maybe no, it was 16. It was 16 point something percent. And I brought it home, and I remember the next day, I didn't drink any that day, but the next day when I was cooking supper, it was, you guys, a really hard day. The kids were just on one that day. They came in such a bad mood. Nobody was listening. The baby was fussy. It was just everything. And I'd had a really hard health day. All of these different things had happened, and the kids hadn't been home for an hour from the school bus, and I was already just at a breaking point. And I remember walking outside and smoking a cigarette and just like tearing up and being like, "Girl, what is wrong with you? Like, you should be stronger than this." Like, I don't know. I'm really hard on myself. Let's just put it that way. And whenever I have those weak moments where I have to step outside and cry because the kids, or I can't handle the kids or something like that, it just, as a mother, can make you feel really shitty. And I'm extremely hard on myself, which is a whole ass problem. So that day I was like, you know what, screw it. Happy hour's gonna be an hour early today. And I poured a generous amount into my wine glass, and I downed that sucker. I downed it. And I'm cooking, and I'm listening to music, and it's a whole vibe, and I'm happy. I drank that one glass really quickly because I wanted to feel it. I wanted to be numb. You know what I'm saying? Mind you, this was like 4 o'clock. The kids got home at 3:30. So it hadn't even been an hour that they had been home, and I was already like at my limit. Okay. And by 5 o'clock, when my husband came in, I was buzzed, and the bottle of wine was gone. I had 4 generous cups of wine, and the bottle of wine was gone. And there I was, buzzed before my husband even got home from work. And as soon as he walked through the door, it's like before he walked in, I didn't even think about it. I was just doing it. But as soon as he walked in, I told him, well, it was obvious, number one, because the bottle of wine was on the counter, gone. And before he had time to even say anything to me, I said something to him and I was like, yeah, so I drank the whole bottle of wine and I'm a little buzzed. And he laughed it off at first, and then um you could tell he got a little bit more serious, and he's like, because here we are. It's not been a 2 week. I went out my girls' night, and then within 2 weeks, within less than 2 weeks, to be honest, I'd already went through 2 bottles of wine. And this bottle I went through in one day. One day. So it was very, very it was an aha moment, you know what I'm saying? And as soon as he came in, I felt like shit. My whole mood changed. I felt like such a failure. And I'm like, how did I get here? How did I get here? I had it under control. It was just one glass of wine a day. How, within less than 2 weeks, did I get here again? And um, he asked me if I was okay, and I told him no. I said, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. It was one. So literally after an hour, I was back to normal and not really buzzed anymore. And I had a horrible headache because I don't drink like that, you guys. I don't. So I had a horrible, horrible headache the rest of the evening. But the next day, I really sat with myself and thought about it and was like, okay, what got you here? How did you get here? Why did you ignore the red flags? Why did you ignore your gut on this? Because like I said, as small as it may sound to some people, in my mind, thinking about it, it was like, no. Was I doing hardcore drugs? No. But did I let myself fall back into those addictive ways and let it take over? I did. I did do that. So then I started to question, is this a relapse? Did I just relapse by doing this? Even though alcohol wasn't my drug of choice, I have had issues with alcohol before. Like back in my younger years, I drank all the time. I was just always able to put the alcohol down. But the problem is I always was trading one thing for another, for another, for another. So in a roundabout way, there was a time where alcohol was a problem for me and I just upgraded. You know what I'm saying? So, but I never thought about that until this situation happened. And even though alcohol wasn't my drug of choice, it had been at one point an issue for me until I upgraded to something different. And by me ignoring those red flags and by me ignoring my gut feeling and ignoring the fact that, hey, I'm at my breaking point and I can't take no more shit, I put myself in a very, very bad place of a place, a very dangerous place to where, thank God, I wasn't around something else. Thank God there wasn't other substances around because I may have, really, really fucked up. And it just goes to show that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many years you have, how much you think you got it under control, how strong-willed you think you are. Something can happen or multiple things can happen and it pile up, and if you don't deal with it and be honest with yourself and really nip it in the butt before it gets to that place, it can become a problem. And it doesn't matter if you have 20 years under your belt, 30 years under your belt, it doesn't matter. And so, the first week of after all this happened, I really kicked myself in the ass for it. And I really, really was upset with myself. I felt like a failure. I felt like, wow, like you came all this way and you fucked up. That's how I felt. But that's just me being way too hard on myself. And that is something I have to work on because two things can be right at the same time. You know what I'm saying? I recognized what was going on and I put a stop to it. And I've not drunk a drop since. And I recognize that alcohol is a trigger for me. Legal or not, it does not matter. Alcohol is definitely a trigger for me. Because of my addictive personality, I have to accept the fact that I can't have a glass of wine every once in a while because it's always going to lead to me wanting to take more. And it doesn't matter what it is, that's what it's always going to lead to. And that's hard to kind of wrap your head around or whatever. Because you have to just deal with things and you don't have anything to mask it or make it easier or whatever. So going from someone who always was taking something to help get through shit to now being in this place where I can't take anything to help me, it's hard. And that's something that I've had to like communicate with my life coach about and be honest about and be honest with myself about and to my husband, because in order for me to be the mother I need to be and the wife I need to be and all of these things, I have to be honest about this stuff. And when I'm having those rough times, I can't ignore it, or it could I could now see how easily it could get out of hand, even after all these years of sobriety. It doesn't matter. And that's the thing about addiction. It does not matter. And that's just something I have to remind myself of. But there are questions that I have about this, and I would love to like talk to someone who, I mean, of course, my life coach, but someone with experience, someone who's been there, somebody who has been there. Like right now, I'm in this place where I'm scared to touch even a drop of alcohol ever because obviously I can't handle it. I can't do it. Um, but at the same time, that night out with the girls, after years of not seeing them and having that drink, I didn't feel guilty then. You know what I'm saying? I didn't feel guilty when I had that one glass of wine, that one day. It was when I downed a whole bottle of wine within a day. And I seen how quickly it got to that place. And so, I don't know. I'm in this place now where it's like, it sucks that recreationally or socially I can't go out and just have a drink every once in a while. Surely there is a medium where when I do go out every 6 months or so, if I want to have a drink, I want to be able to get to that place. Basically what I'm trying to say is I want to be able to get to that place where if I want to go out with the girls and have a drink, I can do that without it being an issue. And I don't know if I'll ever get there. And that's sad. Addiction doesn't go away. It doesn't. If you're an addict, once an addict, always an addict, man. And that's just the way it is. And I get so upset with myself because it's like, damn, I wish you didn't have such an addictive personality, because I know there are people out there that can recreationally drink and it never be an issue. And I envy them, you know what I mean? Or anything like that. It sucks because unfortunately that's just not who I am. And I have to accept that that's just not who I am. And it sucks. My whole point in saying this is if you or someone have recently relapsed, or maybe you're thinking about it, or maybe you're still kicking yourself in the ass from a relapse from a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever the situation may be, just know you're not a failure, and your addiction does not define you. Your relapse does not define you. All we can do is wake up the next day and do better and do our best. That's what I should say. Do the very best we can. We can't change what's already happened. There's no point in trying to, because you can't. The main important thing is getting to the root of what got you there and doing better, doing the best you can every single day. And if you fuck up from time to time, that's okay. You're human. You're human. Living in a place of, you know, living in a place of feeling like you're a failure does nothing but hurt you. It's going to pretty much essentially continue putting you in that place to be susceptible to relapse again, because you're going to feel like shit about yourself. You're going to feel like you're useless, whatever, all these things you don't deserve, whatever. And it's not true. It's just not true. Everybody in this world deserves better. And just because you relapse, that doesn't make or break you. It doesn't mean that all those years that you've put into your recovery doesn't count. It doesn't mean that all that effort you put into doing better is gone. And I hate the fact that there's so many people out there that try to spin that narrative. It's like, oh, you're back to square one. No, I went through hell and back to have these 7 years or almost 7 years under my belt with sobriety. And I'm not going to let one bottle of wine detour me to think that all of that doesn't count. None of that matters anymore. That's ridiculous. That's not the way it works. And it doesn't matter if you have a week under your belt, a day under your belt. It does not matter. All the work you put in today doesn't get took away because you fuck up one time. It doesn't. It doesn't. Of course, we want to do better. Of course, you want to strive for better and do better, but you can't let that one fuck up define your recovery, because that's just, if you do, then you're never going to recover, right? If you allow that relapse to define you and to live in that place of failure, I'm a failure, I'm a fuck up, then you'll continue relapsing because you'll tell yourself that you're not capable of better. You'll tell yourself you don't deserve better, and that's not true. Every single one of you out here watching this right now, you're worth it. And you deserve better, and you have to believe in that yourself, because if you don't believe in it, who else will? You know? Anyways, guys, that is it for this one. It has been an hour and 30 minutes. The baby is in there screaming my name. Instead, she could walk right in here. Like, she could walk right in here, but she's not going to. She being lazy baby this morning. So I am going to let you guys go. Thank you guys so much for coming to my TED Talk. Leave all of your input, thoughts, and opinions in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. If you like this video and you took something from it, please consider hitting the like button, subscribing before you go, and tapping the bell for post notifications. That way you're notified every single time I upload. I appreciate every single one of you to the moon and stars. And until the next one, bye.